Good afternoon, and welcome to another edition, perhaps the 32nd or even the 33rd, of the COVID313 Community Coalition for Families and Youth. We're excited to be with you today, as always, to bring you trusted and phenomenal experts and to love on you and give you support so you can be part of the process of us making it through this pandemic. My name is Jametta Lilly, and I am one of those women from Michigan. I'm also blessed to serve as the CEO of the Detroit Parent Network, and I am a proud member of this coalition and the committed and dedicated members of it. We have a really special program for you today, and as you're getting ready to settle in, a couple of things we want to let you know. Whenever we come together, we want to hear from you. So please, if you're on Facebook, you can chat with us there. You can also text us at 313-288-2082. You also always know that we're providing translation for you. If you have questions or resources that you'd like to have, make sure that you share that with us because we are here to be of a service to our community. And as we look outside in this weather, it really brings to home that we are moving into another season. And that season has effects and impacts relevant to COVID. And we'll continue to bring you voices in particular to talk about that. We know that, for example, Halloween is coming up. And we know that many families participate in that. So we need to give you some tips on how to be safe. We're also continuing our focus and celebrating Hispanic heritage by bringing you speakers with a focus today on Central America, as well as we'll have an opportunity to hear about some foods from Venezuela. And of course, we're going to make sure that we are always focused on those communities that, like Hispanics, Latinos, and African Americans, tend to be marginalized. And we're really pleased that we're going to have speakers relevant to our LGBTQ community talking with us, and a real leader there to help us think about the implications of COVID and also as we move forward for social justice. So make sure that you're settled in. Make sure that you're ready to be informed and share with us your ideas. Delighted to have you on board and delighted that we are here as a vehicle to address disparities, systematic racism, and to inform and to uplift us no matter what. So we're connected. And I am connected and always welcome and happy to bring on board as part of our connection is my partner in this great work, which is Christine Bell. Christine, how are you today?
I'm good, Jametta. How are you? It's
I'm
always
wonderful, thank you.
it's good to be here again with you for the 32nd timer. I really have lost count, but
Same here.
I'm always honored to be here. Again, I'm Christine Bell. I am right there with everyone else. I have 3 children, and so just navigating these waters is really tough for us as a family, but also full of joy as we navigate it all. I'm really humbled to serve as the executive director of Urban Neighborhood Initiatives, and I too am a proud member of this coalition. I'm doing the logistics today, so this town hall is always translated into Spanish and ASL, so we want to give folks time to get on the right line and get comfortable. Christina, could you please share the phone number for Spanish translation?
Sí, buenos días. Si necesitas traducción en español, por favor, llama al 313-626-7440. A tu servidora Cristina Ruiz Mazón y Gloria Rosas estarán haciendo la traducción. Muchísimas gracias y que tengan buen día. Bye bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christina. And then Julie is our ASL interpreter today. Could you please share the instructions for ASL interpretation? Thank you so much, Julie. And just like Jametta said, please, we want to hear from you. You can put your comments or questions for our panelists in the chat on Facebook, or you can text them to 313-288-2082. 2082. And we're asking you to stay with us for the next 60 minutes so that you can stay informed and powerful during this time. We will have a question and answer segment after each of the presentations. And if we can't answer your question today, we're committed to getting you those answers by early next week. And all the questions that are asked today will be posted with the answers on onedetroitpbs.org. We have a few reminders for our panelists that are here today. Please remember to speak slowly for our translators. They really want to make sure that they're translating the important information that you're sharing correctly. And keep a lookout in the chat, because sometimes they will chat that they need folks to slow down. Also, keep your eye on the chat for the wonderful Terry Whitfield, our timekeeper, and he will chat you your remaining time. If you go over your time, Jametta or I will pop onto the screen as another reminder, and then we also will ask you to wrap up if needs be. So keep your eye on that chat. Also, please turn off your cameras when you're not speaking to ensure that our ASL interpreter can be seen, and also mute yourself when you are not speaking. And it is my pleasure to welcome Arlisa to the program to kick us off today. Arlisa? It's so good to see you.
Hello. Thank you. It is so good to be seen and not viewed, as my father used to say.
Yes.
Yes, it is. So, hello, everyone. Again, my name is Arlisa Hurd. I'm the mother of two. I'm a nana of 1.5, and I'm a resident of the Hope Village, which is the Focus Hope neighborhood, member of 482 Forward, and also a member of this wonderful COVID313 coalition. You know, over the last few weeks, I've dealt with my own personal health challenges. Not COVID, thank God, I have to put that out there, but just regular health challenges, but not just health challenges, other life challenges. I mean, this virtual learning thing with my son has been quite a challenge. Personal family challenges, even challenges within my community, you know, seeing up close and personal the mental, emotional, physical, and financial challenges that people, families are going through. It's even been challenging trying to process the racial and the civil unrest currently happening in our country, right? I mean, plots to kidnap our own governor, hold hostages, and harm other elected officials across the country is just mind-blowing. Here in America, I'm seeing challenges, seeing such cavalier behaviors and attitudes being displayed by some about COVID. You know, some folks, even some of our leaders, not wearing masks, not socially distancing, still attending overly crowded gatherings, and it goes on and on. But just because there are challenges doesn't mean there won't be victories. You know, I've been having some very interesting conversations about voting lately. Some people, quite frankly, believe in voting, and surprisingly, some people just don't. There are even stats out there that shows that parents of school-age children are not your strongest voting base. I've even heard elected officials say parents just simply don't vote. So what does that mean? They've already counted us out, right? Now, many of us know the story of David and Goliath, and I won't go all into that. But we know that David defeated this huge giant. But do you realize that David was basically a nobody among his family and friends? He was a little guy compared to his brothers and the strong, honorable soldiers identified for battle. David had no idea that he was going to defeat a giant that day. In fact, he was only there because he was running an errand for his father. But when he overheard the panic and the fear that other people were expressing about a giant in the land, David didn't fear at all. In fact, he felt he had everything he needed to take down a giant, and he did. So I'm telling us parents, we are often counted out, the little guy, underrated, parents, communities, the underserved, people of color. but we have all that we need to defeat the giant in the land. I'm not talking about one person. I'm talking about giant systems of racism, classism, inequalities, inequity, you name it. We have all that we need. So I want to encourage somebody today that this season, let's get out our 5 family and friends or more, and let's get them to the polls, have them vote early, take everybody that we need so that we can vote and vote like our lives depended on it, because we got a giant to take down and we're going to defeat it. Okay, I'm done. Christine?
Arlisa, thank you so much. That was just so inspiring. I was just about to put into the chat, yes, that is exactly what I needed to hear in this moment. I'm going to hand it over to Jametta in just one moment, but one of my colleagues reminded me, one of my colleagues reminded me that we want to remind guests today to turn off the volume on their computer when they're speaking, and not to watch the Facebook feed. It can really slow down their internet connection. And plus, we're going to get some feedback and background noise. So for our panelists, make sure that you turn your volume off on your computer when they're speaking, and not watch it on the Facebook feed. Okay. So thank you so much, Jametta.
Yes, thank you. And Arlisa, it was wonderful to have you back and for you to remind us that not only do we have power, but we cannot walk in fear. And some of you may know, and scripture actually informs us, for God has not given us a spirit of fear or of timidity, but of power, love, and self-discipline. So when we have that and we're filled up with that, no matter who we are, we can combat anything. And we have to have that vision in order to create the future for our children, and indeed to save our very lives right now. So as we talk about saving lives and understanding our future, we've got to think about, again, COVID. And we need to understand particularly how it is affecting our babies and our children. And so we're really pleased to be able to bring to the program one of our outstanding pediatricians, Dr. Maricela Castillo-McKenzie, is going to talk to us about keeping our children safe and healthy in this thing that many people continue to celebrate, which is Halloween. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. I'm really happy to be here today. I really appreciate the invitation. And I'm going to be talking about, how can we be safe during Halloween, and how can we care for our loved ones during this special holiday, and, what we need to do. I know that we're going through different and difficult times. And I know that, we're thinking as parents, what would be the best thing to do for our kids. Halloween definitely it's going to be different this year, as well as Thanksgiving, Dia de Muertos. So we just have to be prepared to know what to do in order to protect ourselves and our loved ones. This year we have to take into consideration COVID-19 and also the flu, which they're pretty much in the community. So hopefully this is going to be helpful for everybody, and for all the parents that are listening to us today. So first of all, I'm gonna take you next slide, please. So first of all, I'm gonna talk about who should not attend in-person holiday celebrations. We're talking about Halloween, Dia de Muertos, Thanksgiving. So it's very important to know who should not be exposing other people. So first of all, people with or exposed to COVID. From these people, it's people who have been diagnosed with COVID-19, people who have symptoms of COVID-19, people who are waiting for COVID-19 test results, or people who have been exposed to someone with COVID-19 in the last 14 days. And also to consider, it's very important, people who are at increased risk for severe illness from COVID-19. So people who are immunocompromised, people who have heart problems, diabetes, lung problems, smokers. So these people are very high risk of COVID-19. So I know the holidays are coming and it's a special time for everybody, but we really have to consider COVID-19 and the flu, as I mentioned, during this time. Next slide, please. So I found this very helpful chart, which is from the Nebraska Medicine group, and basically it tells us, it divides the activities during this Halloween season in lower risk, moderate risk, and higher risk, just to give us an idea. So lower risk activities would be, for example, Halloween movie night at home with our family, decorating your home, pumpkin carving at home, candy scavenger hunt at home or around the house. Moderate risk activities would be, socially distant trick-or-treating with grab-and-go greets. We can do outdoor costume party where people have to stay 6 feet apart and wear masks. Even if we're outside, we still have to wear masks. Pumpkin patches, orchards, and haunted forests where people stay 6 feet apart and wear masks also. Higher risk activities definitely are going to be traditional door-to-door trick-or-treating, trunk or treats with cars parked very close together, indoor costume parties, and indoor haunted houses. So this is very important to remember, just so we know where we are and how to decrease the risk that we could expose ourselves and our loved ones. Next slide, please. So the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, they already posted these in their website, which are their recommendations for this Halloween holiday that is coming. And they have some recommendations for basically homeowners or anybody who's going to be at home during this season. So basically they're recommended do not hand out candy if you're sick, first of all. Wear a face mask that needs to cover your mouth and your nose. We can see, in the picture, the little kids wearing face masks that actually go along with their costumes. So if we can have a face mask that goes along with their costumes, that would be helpful for the kids. If you're able to use duct tape to mark 6-foot lines in front of your home and leading driveway to the front door or the area where the candy is going to be delivered, they recommend position a distribution table between yourself and trick-or-treaters just to make sure that you're not in close contact with trick-or-treaters and they're not in close contact with you. If you're going to do this, disinfect the table to eliminate direct contact. Wash your hands often, all the time. Every time you're going to be touching anything, please wash your hands with your hand sanitizer. It has to be 70% alcohol or more, or hand and soap, or soap hand, please. Consider handing out candy in an open space also, and where distancing is possible rather than your front door. And consider a neighborhood parade. So we can see sometimes you can use like a PVC pipeline if you can't just give candy in that way. Next slide, please. And I found this very interesting website. It's called Halloween2020.org. That is for anybody. And basically what it does is that it shows a map of the state and the county, and it looks at COVID-19 risk levels by county. So you can see green, yellow, orange, red. So green is the least risk and red is the highest risk. Next slide, please. So depending on your county, you can see the activities that you can do during this Halloween season with your kids, which, going from green to red zone, just to avoid risk. Next slide, please. And definitely during this season, let's remember vaccinations are very important, especially the flu. Right now, we're already in flu season, and it has been shown by the CDC that since the pandemic, half of the kids have not been updated with their shots. So it's very important to make sure that your kids are vaccinated and they are updated with their shots, especially if they're going to be participating in Halloween activities, and in particular the flu shot. And I think that's all for me. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Castillo-McKenzie. These were wonderful, and the slides were absolutely great and vivid. Do we have any questions, Christine? I think you're on mute.
Is this better, Jametta?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Great. My headphone was in my lap, so no wonder you couldn't hear me. So I apologize.
One
for
day
that.
we'll do the bloopers, right?
Exactly. So one of I heard you say a number, but I just wanted you to repeat it again for our audience. You said, I think you said half of the children in Michigan have not, since COVID, have not been updated on their vaccines. Is that right?
Well, actually, from the CDC, it's half in the entire country. Actually,
Okay.
They have seen, like that. There's been a decrease in immunization update. So, kids could be immunized, but they are due for some of their shots. And because of the pandemic, parents have been, a little bit more scared about taking the kids to the clinic. They're afraid of, getting being contagious, having COVID or finding anybody with COVID in the clinic. But most of the clinics already have, protocols set up so that doesn't happen. So that way, sick patients are not, mixed with healthy patients. And right now, during this time, the best thing that we can do is definitely vaccinate our kids and protect them.
Great. And then this question is the doctor planning to trick or treat if she has kids? And this is so for your own family, what are your plans?
So I've been talking about it with my sister and my husband, and so I have an 18-month-old. So she's not really into trick or treating at all, really. But we were just planning to go to my sister's home and then trick and treat among ourselves. So we weren't really planning to go house by, from one house to the other because of the risks. And just in my particular case, my daughter is too little that she doesn't really understand Halloween yet. But I think that as a parent, definitely the most important thing is to do what you feel comfortable with and talk to your kid about it. Talk to your kid about, okay, this year Halloween is going to be different. We're going to do things different. There's other activities that we can do during Halloween if you don't feel comfortable doing trick or treating. Always consider, the risk that there's still risk and there's still COVID out there. And now we also have the flu. So we definitely have to be very conscious and very cautious about it. And if you're not so sure or you have questions about it, the best way to go about it is if you don't feel comfortable doing it, then don't do it. And then find another activity to do at home with your and just explain that it's for their own safety and the safety of your family.
I loved the idea that you put up about the scavenger hunt, the trick or treat scavenger hunt. That's such a great idea. There's a question about where you can find the presentation, and you'll be able to find the presentation both on Detroit Public Television's Facebook page and their website. And so you'll hear that a couple of times during the presentation. And then there's a question from one of the other panelists that is there a one-pager social media tool we can share? Do you have a suggestion for that? A place where we can go to share that information that you just gave?
So most of the information that I gather is from the CDC, the cdc.gov. You get they have very good updated information in terms of like the holidays that are coming. So they have information about Halloween, Dia de Muertos for the Hispanic community, Thanksgiving, gatherings and things like that. Also, the other website that I look into, that I get information about looking into Halloween2020.org, which is a very good website, and it gives you information according to your county to see the risk level of COVID-19, how high the level is in your county, and then it gives you ideas of what type of activities to do during Halloween with your kids based on the risk level in your county. So it's very helpful. I love it. I played with it yesterday and it was very, very helpful. So so you can definitely look into it, next week or within the next 2 weeks when we're getting closer to Halloween.
Great. And I'm going to ask one other question that's similar to the question about the trick or treat question. But in terms of vaccinations, do you plan on getting your daughter vaccinated with the flu shot?
Of course, she already got it.
Oh.
So, every year I make sure that she gets her flu shot. Well, she started last year. She's only 18 months old, but definitely this season, even, because of COVID, we're recommending even every year we make so much emphasis on getting flu shots. And this year we're making even more emphasis, because of the risk of COVID. And so now we have COVID and we have flu, so it's not a good combination. So the more protection we can have against the disease, and if it's just a shot, I mean, yeah, it's going to be a little painful, but your kid is going to forget about it in a couple of hours. And the protection that your kid is going to have during this season is going to be very important.
Great. Thank you so much. That's all the questions that we have. Thank you for coming on. It's been truly a pleasure. Jametta?
Yes, thank you. And also, we don't mind adding that we believe that there are some little Latinos and little boys of Hispanic descent that are looking at you and saying, I want to be like Dr. Maricela. And we want to lift up those in our community where so many people have been marginalized about what opportunities are. So we're wonderful. We're glad to have your voice with us. So we're going to continue our focus looking at and celebrating Hispanic heritage. So we're really pleased to have one of our Southwest Detroit restaurants, El Rey de la Arapas, and I may have mispronounced that, but I'm sure I'll be corrected. So we're going to see a little bit about food, culture, and the history of Central America in Detroit. Let's let it roll.
Hi, my name is Jessica Gutierrez, and I had the privilege of being born in Caracas, Venezuela. Venezuela is a country located in South America. And happy personalities, and having the most beautiful women in the world. Baseball runs in our veins, from Alejandro Chico Carrasquel, which was the first Venezuelan to debut in the MLB. From there, we've had the privilege and honor of watching Hall of Famer Luis Aparicio, Omar Vizquel, the Big Cat Andrés Galarraga, Eugenio Suarez, Jose Altuve, Salvador Perez, El Kid Rodriguez with over 400 saves, Harold Castro, Gleyber Torres, Carlos Carrasco, Felix Hernandez, David Concepcion, Ronald Acuña Jr., and the Triple Crown and two-time MVP and future Hall of Famer, Miguel Cabrera. There are so many more that we can name, but I think we'll take over the full video by doing that. The Venezuelan woman is known for her beauty. They take very good care of themselves as well as others. This is something that is passed on from generation to generation. Petroleum has been one of our main sources of income, but due to the mismanagement of our funds and corruption, Venezuela finds itself in a very unfavorable situation that has caused millions of Venezuelans to unfortunately migrate to different parts of the world. The United States is no exception, and thousands of Venezuelans have picked this country to make their new home, specifically states like Texas and Florida. For example, my family and I have been here for 25 years. We moved to Florida, and at the time that we did come here 25 years ago, we knew maybe 2 Venezuelans down there. Nowadays, the Venezuelan community has grown so much. These hardworking Venezuelan people work in so many different fields, such as construction, medicine, education, restaurants, and so much more. When we talk about restaurants, it brings me to the fan favorite, the food. Just like every other country, Venezuelan has a signature food, which for us is called the arepa. In 2014, we opened up the first Venezuelan restaurant here in Michigan. How it started, my mom's a really good cook. I may be biased because that's my mom, but hands down, best cook. And from there, my dad's a soccer player. We would go to games, and my mom would make food, make arepas, and bring it. And at that point, after the game, when we had different people from different nationalities try the food, that's when we realized maybe how delicious the food was, and we had the idea of maybe opening up a small restaurant. So from there, we took our chances, we opened it up, and we're still going. It's been pretty successful. And I'll actually show you guys a couple of plates that if you go to the restaurant, El Rey de las Arepas, meaning the king of the arepas. Here is what the arepa is. It's made out of a special flour, and you can fill it with pretty much anything that you would want. With this one, for example, it's got black beans, white shredded cheese, tomatoes, avocado, plantains. You can put shredded beef, chicken, just pretty much like a sandwich, if you will, anything that you would like to eat it with. So if you haven't tried Venezuelan food, I urge you to come out to Detroit and try El Rey de las Arepas, authentic food. You won't be disappointed. We're located at 7701 McGraw Avenue, Detroit, Michigan. Check us out on social media, Instagram and Facebook. And while you're also checking us out there, you can look for Detroit Chévere, which is an organization that we also have in the city of Detroit. We started this organization to help families in need, not only here in the United States, but also in Venezuela and also in different countries throughout the world. We'll raise money, we'll donate food, medicine, toys, clothes, baby formula, diapers, and more. Anyone that's in need, you can reach out to us, and we'll definitely do everything that we can in our power to help out. Most recently, we did partner with the Miguel Carrera Foundation during this pandemic. Obviously, it's a hard time for everybody, and we just wanted to be able to thank these essential workers and go out every single Friday with El Rey de las Arepas and donate 100 lunches to everyone out there that's working during these times. Obviously, essential workers are big right now, and we can't thank you guys enough. So this is just a little something that we decided to put together and bring food every Friday. Now you guys know a little bit more about Venezuela, but I cannot forget to tell you guys to listen to a little bit of our wonderful music, because trust me, when you listen to Oscar de Leon, you're gonna want to get up and salsa dance. Whether you know how to or not, he will make you salsa dance. So that's something that I definitely wanted to tell you. And the tambores, which is the drums, very common to dance, especially in the coast of Venezuela, the beaches. You're definitely gonna want to listen to the tambores. Okay, well, that's it for now. If you do run into a Venezuelan guy, greet them with an hola chamo. If it's a woman, then greet them with an hola chama. Thank you guys, gracias, and see you guys next time.
Thank you. We're hoping the audience enjoyed that. I think those of us that are hungry, we now know a place to go, and we know the music that we need to dial up. And I think also very importantly, she shared that the community has been coming together to make sure that those people who are being affected by COVID, and in particular, we already know that Black and Brown people make up so much of our essential workers and have been disproportionately and adversely impacted. So it is important for us to lift them up as heroes and support them however we can. And so we thank the restaurant and others who have been doing that. So we're going to continue our focus and trying to have some information about the history of Central America, particularly in Detroit. So we're very pleased to welcome to the program Ana Ulloa. And you are so welcome. And please go ahead and take us forward.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me well?
Yes, if you lean forward a little bit, we kind of heard you a little bit better. Thank you.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, yes, wonderful.
Okay. Yes, good afternoon. My name is Ana Maria Ulloa, and I am from El Salvador, Central America. And thank you for having me here. You may be wondering, who are these Central Americans and why are they here? We are probably the newest kids on the block when it comes to the Latinos. Well, I think Venezuelans are now after us. But in terms of the history, I'm going to share just a few minutes of the history of Central America. Before Christopher Columbus stumbled on this side of the world, there was no such thing as Central America. There was an area called Mesoamerica. And Mesoamerica goes from the southern part of the central Mexico all the way to the border, the northern part of Costa Rica. In that area, we have one of the two and the most amazing cultures before Christopher Columbus stumbled on our side of the world, the Mayas first and the Aztecs. To put it in perspective, there were no borders. There were different groups that will trade between each other. And as the Aztecs, the capital of Tenochtitlan, was bigger than London when Christopher Columbus stumbled on this side of the world in 1492. That moves us to the time of colonization. The colonization was, we were divided. It's always good to divide and conquer. So you would have Mexico, and they created out of the isthmus that is called Central America. They were created at that time 5 different countries. And I say that because for Central Americas, we have 2 terms, Central America and America Central. Central America are the 5 countries that became one, and they were part that the virreinato, or what they would call the Capitanía, was in Guatemala. 1821, Central America declared its independence from Spain. And some unknown fact about our history, that for a very short period, we were part of Mexico. We were annexed to Mexico. It didn't make any sense for us to be separated. At that time, Belize didn't exist because the Belize was it's like the Malvines, that it was part of Guatemala, but it was shared with, at least I believe, to England, and then it was separated, and Panama was part of Colombia. So those are the 2 countries that now we are 7, before we were 5. Anyways, for some reason, we separated about 1849, I think, or 1829 from Mexico. And that's when we start splitting up. Culturally, we share a lot of traits because if you were, what I'm saying, up to 1829, we were all interrelated. But you have the Maya world in one part, that is the Yucatan Peninsula. You got Honduras, and then you got El Salvador. And then as you go further down, you're also going to have more of the Chicha influence that come to Colombia. Central America is a product of the 3 races, the Caucasian races, or many of them really Arabic origin, because those are the people that came from Spain. The Arabs have been there 800 years, are very strong Native American roots, and an African influence. If you look at the music of the Caribbean in Central America, it's very Carifuna, or the Mosquito Coast. You are going to see the influence of the Africans that were brought, and some slave ships that will be able to escape, and they came to Central America. Fast forwarding, in 1980, there were only about 354 Central Americans, 254,000 Central Americans in the United States. Right now, we're around 3.5 million. What made us come? What made us come, and I'm a product of that, I came in 1984, were the civil wars in our countries. And that has a lot to do because of the Cold War was exported to Central America. With the Monroe Doctrine, this part of the world, it really had to be loyal to the United States, and Cuba was supposed to have an influence.
It's so interesting having speakers talk about the history.
Thank you. And that's why we started coming. Some of us, would come and got permission to stay here, but many of them, and that's what Detroit is very important. At St. Anne's, we had the Freedom House. Some of us that go way back remember the Freedom House that is next to St. Anne's Church. And they will be housing a lot of Salvadorians in there that will then cross the border and go to Canada. Therefore, we have a huge settlement of Salvadorians in Canada, because in Canada, they were able to get papers before they were able to get political asylum here. When the Salvadorians came, they settled basically in California, some of them in Washington, D.C. area, Miami. Those are the biggest concentrations. First came the Salvadorians, then started the Guatemalans. Now we have more people from Honduras, and I'll get to that in a minute. But what happened was when the Salvadorians came here, either they were from the guerrillas or they were, they were either freedom fighters or they were with the army. They knew how to fight. So they get to California, right? Well, California has Mexican gangs. Well, you know what? These Salvadorians have a lot more training. So it's like they're coming from gun training to fighting with stick and stones. So those are started creating what we know now as the Mara Salvatrucha, MS-13, the big gangs, the 18, all of these kind of gangs that we have now that became more organized worldwide. The United States came up with a policy that anybody that was a member of a gang would be deported regardless of immigration status. A lot of them may have been permanent residents, but they were deported. That was moving forward early 90s. And these people started going back to Central America and creating turfs in Central America, and that went to Honduras. So it was mainly Honduras and some of Guatemalans, Honduras and El Salvador, where we are totally controlled by the gangs. Gangs in Central America, when you go there, you may think that it's just a little power. No president in El Salvador, for example, can get elected unless he does a deal with the gangs. They control the country. They control areas. And there's one gang that is 18 and it's the other gang, MS-13. So because of the violence, it's very difficult to be able to produce. Let's say I live on this street. If I cross there, that's the other gang, and I'm on this street, I may not be affiliated, but I may get killed. If I am a person that does labor work, I cannot go to the turf because my house happens to be here. That is what has caused the explosion of the caravans that we're seeing right now. Is people are flying because they don't have freedom to live there. But this is an American-made relationship with Central America phenomenon by exporting all of these people that came here that were deported as troublemakers, and they're in the jails. They control the jails of Central America. We're one of the most violent areas, Honduras and El Salvador. Guatemalans came a little bit differently, and that's my own humble opinion. A lot of Native Americans. We have in Detroit a lot of Native Americans. At Escuela Avancemos, we got quite a few people from Guatemala that just speak MAM. Spanish is their second language. So we talk about schools. We are going to see them in our schools. And those is very interesting. I can talk about it all day long. We don't have time. They're more matriarchal societies, by the way. The woman tells the man what to do. But they come because there is always in our areas looking down on Native Americans. That still exists. So those Native Americans that have kept their traditions fly because they don't have rights in Guatemala. We know why the people from Honduras are coming right now. We know why the people from El Salvador have come. In the 2001, Central America from Honduras and Guatemala and El Salvador got TPS. President Trump tried to take that away. That's been in the court, so they still have it. And we see now in schools a lot of people from Honduras. They're a younger generation. We see people that, as kids that are coming from Honduras because they're just letting the kids come and really walk through Mexico. They walk through Mexico, or they are brought here through what is called the train of the dead. That is a train where they go on top of the train to get to the Rio Grande. Central Americans just want to be here. They want to create a peaceful life, just like any immigrant. They're here to do hard work, and they just want to be in schools where they're valued, and they are given an opportunity of have a better life, just like any immigrant. And I thank you for the opportunity of talking about Central Americans. I'm a humble Central American, and I love that part of the world, and I love what Detroit does for every immigrant. Thank you. Any questions that you guys may have for me?
Anna, thank you so much. I'm sure that we do. Anna, as an activist, also thank you for that rich history that you gave. So yes, we'd love to find out if we have any questions from the audience. Christine?
Anna, really, it's so good to see you. I feel like, and see you, I wish I could be in the same room with you, but it is, yeah, it's so good to see you. So just really quickly, you had raised that there's a lot of violence in the country. In like 1 minute, could you share what that violence is about? I don't want folks leaving this program feeling like it's just because people are violent, but could you
No,
say a little bit about,
they
like
are
1 minute
turfs.
about it?
And you know, Christine, I go back, not because of the pandemic right now, but like when my mother was still alive, I would go back to El Salvador last year 12 times in a year. So I've been there asking a lot of questions. And that's when President Nayib Bukele was elected in El Salvador, because there would be like, it's not that people are violent, it's that they're turfs. You know, this is my turf, this is your turf, and there are rules. So if you're going to cross and you're going to be doing something in this area, but you live in this area where this gang control it, you're going to have to ask permission. Remember, the gangs have their own structure and their own way of organizing. So it's not that all Salvadorians are violent, but that there's violence because the authority cannot control the country as the gangs can, if I can explain myself. And I think that's also happening in Honduras. They got a lot of power.
And that's the turf piece is about economics, yes?
Yeah, and also remember, these are, a lot of the gang leaders were raised in the United States, raised in Los Angeles, sent back to a country in where they probably were originally from, but it's like the DACA students, they really don't understand the country. So they brought a different culture. So they brought the violence that we had in the streets in here, we got it there. Is it drug sale based? Yes, it is. A lot of it has to do with the traffic of drugs that Central Americans use from Colombia to Central America to get Mexico to the United States. It's really a big mafia, if you want to, it's gangs, mafia, whatever you want to call it. And people are cut in the middle.
Yeah. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that people knew that there's this underlying issue around economics, and then what happens when you're using, when drugs and weapons and all of that is involved, that violence is a byproduct of that. So thank you so much, Anna. It was so good to see you. Thank you for being with us today.
Everyone.
Jametta.
Yes, thank you. Bye-bye.
And Christine, thank you for lifting that up, because our purpose here is to inform, and particularly because we know there are horrific stereotypes that are presented about Black and brown people in this country and even internationally. So it's important that we dissect that and better understand it. So thanks so very much. And while we talk about dissecting, and Arlisa spoke to it and we are all speaking to it, is that we must vote. It is absolutely critical. Our lives depend on it, and the future of our children depend on it. But also there's a lot of questions about that, and what does it mean, and what's on the ballot, and how do I do that? So we endeavor not only this week, but continually up to the election, we're going to make sure that we have voices that are competent and expert to help us with that. And so we're really delighted to welcome back Melanie McElroy from Michigan Voice to help us walk through the ballot and answer questions that we know many of you might have. But also, please, right now, start putting those into the Facebook chat. Text them to 313-288-2082 for your ballot related questions. Melanie, welcome back.
Hi, thanks for having me. And I really appreciated the presentations that went ahead of me. My mom is an immigrant from Guatemala, so I relate to a lot of that, and especially to the voting experience of people who are new to our country. So thank you. I wanted to talk a little bit about voting today, not only how to physically vote a ballot, but then also ways that we can support other people in our communities in this time. So one way that we can help people in our families, on our blocks, at our churches, and our schools is to make sure they know about satellite vote locations and about drop boxes. These are two ways that voters can vote early. They can avoid lines on election day. They can avoid the rush and make sure that their vote is counted safely. So what you need to do, if you have not already requested an absentee ballot, is go to the Detroit City Clerk or your local city clerk or township's office. You can do this online. You'll find where the address is. All you need to do is go and ask them for an absentee ballot. You can fill it out right there. You can turn it in right there and be done. Otherwise, if a ballot is mailed to you, you are able to fill it out at home. Make sure that you seal the ballot properly. When you open the ballot, it'll have a couple of other things in there. All you need to turn in at the end is the privacy envelope that they provide for you to fold your ballot into. Make sure you put it into the sealed envelope and sign the outside of it. They won't be able to count your ballot unless it's signed on the outside. Seal it tight. And then you can turn that into a Dropbox location, which in the city of Detroit, we have about 30 of them across the city. There's a map on the Detroit Department of Elections website. It shows everywhere that you can go, find one of these boxes, drop it in. They're very safe. They are being surveyed 24 hours with a camera, and they also are being monitored by Detroit City Clerk staff. So there's no problem with putting them in a Dropbox. We do recommend that people put their ballots in a Dropbox versus putting them in the mail. Now that we've gotten closer to the election and there have still been some delays due to COVID in the mail system, it's really important that we take advantage of Dropboxes, don't rely on the mail, and make sure that our ballots get picked up safely. So that's one thing that you can do. Another is to go to a Detroit satellite vote location. Other cities have these as well. Detroit just has the most in Michigan. These are also listed on the same website on the Detroit Department of Elections, and you don't have to order a ballot ahead of time. You can go in, you can tell them that you want to vote absentee. They will give you a ballot that's specific to your district. All you have to do is fill that out and turn it in just like you would at a polling place, and then you're done. And you can do that any day of the week leading up to the election. You could go right now and take care of that. So check for hours and locations on the Detroit Department of Elections website. And then if you don't live in Detroit and you want to find out where your clerk is, if you want to find out what is on your ballot, look at a sample ballot, you can visit mi.gov/vote. And I also want to let you know that the Secretary of State just launched a brand new website this week, and it allows for language access in a long list of languages. And so people will now be able to see their ballots in different languages and find all kinds of information and town hall events that they can join virtually in these languages. And the website for that is mi.gov/SOS language access. So they wanted me to plug that for you today and make sure that you are aware that those events that they have are open to the public. A couple of other things to keep in mind if you want to help voters in your family or in your community. If someone has barriers to voting because they have either disabilities, they are older, they are not feeling well, they have limited language and English skills, or they have limited literacy, there's a number of ways that we can support voters. Number one is always to vote at home via absentee and have someone in the family or household turn in that ballot for them. But if they do want to go to the polls on election day, it's okay to take an assistant with you. So that's something that we want to make sure people keep in mind. You don't have to have a disability in order to have an assistant. You can take someone with you for help with language or help with literacy, and they can go right through the whole process with the voter. Another thing they can do is request an audio assistance machine. Those should be available at every precinct. And that means that someone can actually listen to the ballot read to them instead of having to read it themselves. So that's something to keep in mind. And of course, if a voter were to get to a polling location and for whatever reason it's not accessible, if a ramp is blocked or if an elevator isn't working, poll workers are required to bring voting materials outside to the voter so that they can vote comfortably and they can vote privately. They are supposed to bring out a privacy screen and make that voter comfortable and be able to fill out their whole ballot. A couple of other things that are Michigan specific. I'm trying not to speak too fast. I do sympathize with my ASL interpreter. one thing is that in Michigan, we are unique in that felons have the right to vote. You can vote with a felony record, you can vote on probation, and you can vote on parole. Not every state is like this. Some states penalize people for attempting to vote if they have felonies on their record, and they end up going back to prison for several more years. And so because of that, I think there's a lot of fear around it. We also have seen a number of corrections officers and parole officers here in Michigan tell people the wrong thing. So the misconception is pretty wide, and we appreciate anyone spreading the truth that you can vote on probation, on parole, and with a felony record in Michigan. And it's really important to know that even if someone is in jail awaiting trial, if they have not yet been sentenced, they are still able to register to vote absentee from jail, as long as you're not currently serving a sentence. And then as soon as that sentence is up, then the person also regains their right to vote or is able to register and vote again. Two things that are new and important because we voted on them in 2018 and they're finally implemented are the fact that in Michigan, you can now vote absentee for any reason. You don't have to be over the age of 60. You don't have to be away or working on election day. Any of us have the opportunity to do that. So please let people know that it's a great way to get your voting out of the way. It's a great way to avoid the cold in November and long lines. And the other is that we are now able to vote or register to vote every day leading up to election day and even on election day. So in the past, you might remember that 30 days from the election, you had to stop registering people to vote. And if they did not have their registration in by then, they weren't able to vote. But now we're able to register at the clerk's office every day leading up until the election and even on election day. So even if you find someone on election day that wanted to vote and they weren't registered or they needed to change their registration, take them to their city or township clerk's office and they're still able to register and take that receipt with them to the polling place and vote. So that's a brand new thing. A lot of people don't know that because we just voted on it in 2018, but it's really important to remember. And then as far as filling out your ballot, the biggest things to remember is you can vote straight party at the top, but that'll only get you so far. There are a lot of nonpartisan positions at the end of the ballot. So remember to turn it over, remember to read through the proposals, probably do some research on them at home. Sometimes that language is confusing. Make sure that you're voting for all of the judges for the Michigan Supreme Court. And then if you're voting from home, please remember that you have to fold up your ballot into the privacy envelope and then sign it on the back. A lot of ballots have been coming in without the signature and clerks are concerned that they're not able to count them if that happens. But don't worry, voting absentee is very easy and you're even able to track your ballot on your clerk's website to make sure that it gets counted. And if for whatever reason you did register for an absentee ballot, you requested it and it doesn't come in, that's okay. You can still vote on November 3rd, or you can go to a satellite location or to the clerk's office and let them know that your ballot did not come and they're able to spoil it and give you a new one to vote. You won't be charged with voting twice. You won't be charged with fraud. It's okay. And a lot of us know that ballots are not coming on time, that were requested by mail. And so you're perfectly capable of spoiling your ballot and getting a new one to vote if it didn't come in the mail. And if you do vote on election day, one thing you can do to stay safe is bring your own pen. That way you're not touching the same pen that other people have touched. Make sure you're standing 6 feet apart from people inside of the polls. Wear your mask. You can wear gloves if you want. Just make sure you're not wearing any campaign t-shirts or stickers or pins. They will make you remove those if you're going into the polls. And then you're able to vote from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. Even if you have to wait until 10 or 11, if you were in line by 8 p.m., they have to let you vote. And finally, if you do have any problems on election day, any questions leading up to election day, voting absentee, where your precinct is, or any issues with the polls when you go, or if you hear of anybody else, we have a nonpartisan hotline. It's right up there on the screen at the top. 866-OUR-VOTE, and a team of volunteer attorneys will be able to come out and help. They can help you over the phone. If needed, they can come out physically. We can litigate. We can talk to the clerk or the Secretary of State to get those problems resolved. So please share the hotline 866-OUR-VOTE. We can get you lawn signs and other window signs that have that on it if you have a business or an organization that wants to advertise it. But please make sure that people know about the hotline so that we can help as many folks as possible. I know that was really fast, but thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. I put in the chat myself. I think you are our Michigan voting encyclopedia, and you know it backward and forward. I want to check with Christine. Do we have questions?
Well, there was a comment, and so I'm just going to read it to you, Melanie. That was amazing. And I did miss, where do we go to get the signs? Because I think I'd like our organization to actually put them up in our neighborhood.
Absolutely. We at Michigan Voice have them. I'm going to drop my email in the chat. We are located in Cass Corridor, and so we'll have a pickup for signs, I believe, tomorrow, Friday afternoon. So let me put my email here in the chat.
So it sounds like Molly is going to, from 482 Forward, is going to pick up a bunch for all of us, which sounds great. So the comment was, remind our college students out of state to mail in their absentee ballots. So I'm going to say that to you, but you know, the mail is running really slow. So do you have any other suggestions for college students if they haven't done it yet? Should they still mail in their ballots? What, you know, so if you could just go into a few details about that.
So I'm looking at the date. I think this week should be the cutoff. We're really encouraging people to mark their calendars for October 20th and any day after October 20th. Really encourage people to hand in these ballots in person at a drop box, at a satellite location, or right at the clerk's office. We don't want to prohibit anyone from out of state from casting their ballot via mail. So please turn them in as fast as possible. If you have relatives or kids away at college, make sure that they do that as soon as possible. If they wait until the last minute, say maybe 5 days out from the election, I would trust that they may, if they're close, have to drive in and vote in person just to make sure that their vote absolutely counts, or hand in their ballot in person.
So I just clarity. So if I'm going to college at the University of Boston and I'm from Michigan, I can take my absentee ballot to their clerk's office?
No.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, no, it's okay.
You can register. The registration deadline is closing for registering online for absentee, for applying online for an absentee ballot. But if it's already coming to you in the mail, and you already received it, hand it in the next 5 days, and you should be fine. The mail should be able to get it back. If a person waits until, or either their absentee ballot does not come on time, or they wait until the last minute, I can't guarantee that the mail will get it back on time to the clerk. And currently, the rule in Michigan is that it does have to be received by 8 p.m. on election day. So the ruling in the court has gone back and forth between whether it can be postmarked or it has to be received. So as of now, we're preparing everybody for them to have to be received on election day. So anyone outstate, make sure that they get their absentees in as soon as possible, or they may have to physically bring their absentee back to Michigan, or turn it in person, or vote in person.
I love that none of the options include don't vote.
Mm-hmm.
So vote, and don't procrastinate on this one. That's it. Let me just triple check. That's all the questions that we have. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, we want to encourage the audience. There was a great deal of really important information. Michigan is highly inclusive. And it is a joy to know that we have the ability to exercise this central right and not have to wait in lines like we see in places like Georgia with other different types of governors. So we're really pleased. Thank you for sharing these opportunities. We also want to move forward in our program because this month is LGBTQ History Month, and we're very pleased to welcome to the program Curtis Lipscomb. Curtis is the Executive Director of LGBTQ Detroit, and I'm also pleased to say that he's a comrade on the Racial Disparities Task Force, and we see each other all around, and so it's wonderful to have you on the program today. Welcome, Curtis.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Very good. Okay, thank you. It's really an honor to be here. I'm going to share my screen with you, and I'm going to be as brief as possible. And so again, thank you for allowing me to be a part of this presentation. I've learned so much, and I'll begin by saying I want to share in 3 parts the experience of people who are like me. I identify as a gay man, and in the summer of 1979, I came out. I was only 14 years old, and though I didn't understand political power or identity, I'm thankful for all the people that paved the way for me to be here. I want to share with you that inspired by the 1967 rebellion, which that has impacted my life, that rebellion inspired the modern gay rights movement. And so I've always known about freedom in history books, but gay liberation is an experience that was new to me as a child and new to a number of people. And so very briefly, I'd like to offer a history of our movement from the mid 20th century to early 21st century. Our movement in 3 parts: liberation, trauma, and resilience. And here, forgive me, I'm going to go as quickly as possible in lieu of time. As said, my name is Curtis Lipscomb. I'm the Executive Director of LGBT Detroit. We're located on the northwest side of Detroit in the Murray Hill District on Greenfield, south of 8 Mile. And we offer a number of services, direct and indirect, a number of programs, a number of things that we do. So I ask you to please log on to lgbtdetroit.org, lgbtdetroit.org. There you'll learn about the many programs and services that we offer. Here, what you see in front of our building is a group of people who volunteer their time to educate the state of Michigan on the impact of HIV, PrEP, and criminalization, particularly for this one segment of the movement, Black gay males. And so in the 70s, there was 3 major occurrences that impacted the modern LGBT movement. It was a period of the liberation. Stonewall in political power and pop culture began to emerge. And here is an example of a document where you have 2 men embraced in the 1970s in Detroit on a publication called The Gay Liberator. You have to understand that in 1970, having 2 men embrace was revolutionary. And so you can also tell by their appearance that these are 2 people of color. So this was an incredible, brave moment for these 2 to engage in this manner. And so how important was it for them to be free at this time to confess what it is to be attracted to the same gender? There's other monumental moments in the 70s that I like to recognize. You see this woman, her name is Ernestine Eckstein. She was the first Black publicly identified lesbian. You have the iconic Elton John, and then you have the openly first gay elected official in history of California, Harvey Milk, who was slain. These are some of the people that fought for us, and who isn't mentioned, and I don't have a picture of, is a pop cultural icon, Sylvester. Here locally, we have our heroes. So we have our former council president, Charles Pugh, who was the first openly elected city council president. We have on the bottom leaders in the local Southeast Michigan movement, Henry Messer and Carl House, founders of the Michigan Organization for Human Rights. They were the first local human rights organization. That was the first local human rights organization founded here in Detroit, founded actually in downtown Detroit. And then What you see here is Detroit's first gay rights march that occurred in 1972. Can you imagine that? In 1972 in downtown Detroit, people fought for their rights to be free. As we jump to the 80s, a period that I'm most impacted by, we experienced trauma. And so there was definitely cultural backlash, the appearance of HIV and AIDS, and of course, this stigma about what it is to be gay, lesbian, bi, and trans. And so these were some of the moments that stood out to us. We had this incredible movie, Philadelphia, that had A-list actors portraying what it is for a person to be impacted and infected with HIV. We had the protests of an organization called ACT UP, which fought for federal funds to support research for a vaccine to fight against this new disease. On the lower left, we have Larry Kramer, who was the founder of the Gay Men's Health Crisis, the first HIV/AIDS organization in the United States, which he recently passed away, a tremendous icon who fought all his life to make sure that people were healthy. And on the lower left, Detroit, which I'm so proud of, was the third city that organized an AIDS service organization. And there we have these remarkable women whom I'm pictured with who led that fight. Very proud to work beside them. Resilience. And so we did discover a therapy that helped with HIV and AIDS. We did address laws and policies that were discriminative. We had this cultural new expression, these Black Pride events that popped up. And of course, again, pop culture explodes with all kind of sounds of freedom. And here are some of those images that inspired this incredible moment. On the left, you have Frank Ocean, who was the first openly gay person to win a Grammy for hip hop. I mean, that was an amazing feat. We have now these drugs that were able to reduce HIV infections. And today we have this wonderful, sensational program called Pose, where you have the movement highlighted on television, which is amazing. It's a hit television show, as you all know. And of course, you have people organizing around the Don't Ask, Don't Tell, people fighting back, claiming that they can love their country and be themselves. You also have some local heroes. You have April and Jane, who won their fight to keep their family maintained, that led all the way to the Supreme Court. On the right, you see the first couple that was married in Michigan, when we had that small window where we legally could be married here, Paul and Roland. We celebrate them. And my staff downtown, inspired by the 1960s march, celebrating freedom, recognizing that we are all Detroiters. I'm also the founder of Hotter Than July, which is the world's longest running Black Gay Pride event. So I encourage you to come every July and witness that experience. This year was virtual, but for 4 years, it was held at Palmer Park. And so our future work calls us to do increased regional political engagement. Right now, we're currently in national forums. We're celebrating our 26 years of Hotter Than July, and we are continuing our COVID-19 education and prevention work. And so this work is for our survival. We are our own white horses, and so we organize to protect ourselves and protect those that love freedom. And so these young people inspire me. I'm happy to ask questions, and thank you again for this opportunity.
And thank you, Curtis, for giving us a historical context. Because so often our understanding is driven by the images that we may see, particularly on TV, that are pop culture and not necessarily the full dimensions of people, let alone the issues that everyone has a right to health. Christine, do we have any questions for Curtis?
We do not. I think he covered this really well. And I do think there's so much more to learn. I feel like, so I would love to have you back to go a bit deeper and in the work that you have been doing. And I have been to Hotter in July, and it is so fun. I happened upon it on a walk. So if you can imagine, that's like kind of cool that you went for a walk and you stumbled upon this awesome celebration. So it's really awesome. And then there is a request in the chat for you to come in and provide this presentation to the 482 Forward membership. So Curtis, thank you so much for being here. We really, really appreciate it. And Jametta, if you don't mind, I'll close us out because we're at about that time. So thank you everyone for joining us today. And like always, if your question wasn't answered today, we will get the answers and post them next week on onedetroitpbs.org. And on DPTV Facebook. If you have a question that you want to ask, but you didn't have time today to ask it, feel free to text us those questions or topics that you want to hear about. You can text it to 313-288-2082. Again, that number is 313-288-2082. And so we want to make sure that we're hearing from you. So again, if you have questions or you have something that you want to hear about, a topic that you want to hear about, please let us know. As always, we have asks for you, and really we have asks around two things that are incredibly important in this moment. The first is that this is the last day to fill out your census. Again, this is a 10-minute questionnaire that will determine funding for our neighborhoods, for our city, for our state, for the next 10 years. It is so incredibly important. So if you're wondering if you should fill out the census, the answer is yes. Fill out the census, fill it out today. Please make it a priority. It's incredibly important. And then the next set of asks is around voting. Please visit DetroitVotes2020.org and get registered. Get yourself to one of the early voting sites and or send in your absentee ballot. And there was a question that came in, and I just want to take this time to answer it. The question was, can you register to vote and vote on the same day at satellite voting centers? The answer to that question is yes. So please, you can register up until the last day. The next ask is come and join us at Freaking Vote Friday. It's an event that we're going to host every Friday from 2 to 4:30. We are hosting, we're hosting early voting events. So this is what this event is. You can vote early. Tomorrow's event is at Clark Park in Southwest Detroit. So please come and join us in Clark Park tomorrow, 2 to 4:30 at Freaking Vote Friday. And like always, we could not do this town hall, just me, Jametta, some of the folks, the faces that you see every week. It really is a group effort. So if everybody could turn on their cameras before we go. And we want to remind everyone to stay healthy, stay powerful, and stay strong. Christina, could you say that in Spanish?
Manténganse fuertes, manténganse saludables y manténganse fortalecido. Disculpen. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina.
Yeah, thank you.
Everyone have an awesome week. Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
take care. Be blessed. Adios.
Vote. Fill out your census.
Yes,
Fill
today.
out your